Welcome back to ABC 7 at 4. After weeks of uncertainty, the federal government shutdown has officially come to an end. But what does that actually mean for your retirement, your investments, and your long-term financial planning? I'm joined now by our financial advisor, Brian Mirau, the president of Mirau Capital Management. Brian, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Nicole. You know, it's great to be here with you. You know, when a shutdown ends, people lend and they breathe a sign of relief. But it's important to understand what it means for the markets, the economy, and just the everyday household. You know, the end of a shutdown doesn't reset the financial landscape overnight, but it does remove a major source of uncertainty.
Well, a lot of people were wondering whether the shutdown would hurt the economy. Well, now that it's over, what should retirees and families know?
Well, that's a great question, Nicole. You know, when the government shuts down, federal workers miss paychecks, agencies pause operations, and consumer confidence can dip. Now now that things are reopening, you know, the immediate impact is that paychecks resume, back pay is processed, and delayed services start moving again. But the bigger opportunity is for people to look at their financial plan and ask, how prepared am I for disruptions? You know, wealthier households, they tend to plan ahead for uncertainty, not necessarily react to it.
And speaking of planning, a shutdown often pauses things like the IRS operations or Social Security services. So how does the reopening affect all of that?
Well, exactly. You know, during a shutdown, certain IRS functions slow down and Social Security offices operate on tighter staffing. Now that the shutdown has ended, most of those services will ramp back up. But the key takeaway is this: don't wait for government timelines to decide your financial timeline. You know, whether you're filing taxes, planning withdrawals, or preparing for retirement income, you know, having your strategy in place, you know, it keeps you from being thrown off by events that you don't have any control over.
Well, there was also a lot of talk about how the shutdown might affect the markets. So now that it's behind us, what should investors expect?
Well, markets dislike uncertainty more than anything else. You know, the end of a shutdown typically brings some stability back into the markets, but it doesn't guarantee a smooth sailing. You know, wealthier and more disciplined investors stay focused on long term. You know, they don't change their strategy just because political headlines. You know, they stay invested, they stay disciplined, and they have a timeline, not emotion, drive their decisions.
Well, so far, people who have felt anxious or delayed financial decisions during the shutdown, what should they be doing now?
Well, I'd say this, Nicole. You know, you can't control Washington, but you can control your plan. You know, whether you're looking at your income strategy, your taxes, or your long-term retirement goals, now's the perfect time to reset, review, and get organized. Now, every plan can be improved, and the sooner you put your structure around your finances, the less these big national events tend to rattle you, in the future.
And if someone feels like they haven't reviewed their plan in a while, is it too late?
Well, no, not at all. You know, it's never too late to get intentional. You know, you can absolutely strengthen your plan whether you're 50, 60, or already retired. You know, when you look at income taxes, health care, and long-term protection together, that's when you create confidence. You know, it's all about being proactive and not reactive.
Well, if you'd like to learn how to protect your retirement from uncertainty, whether it's a shutdown, inflation, or market volatility, now is the time for you to take action. All you have to do is call or text 915-233-2904 to request your complimentary retirement toolkit. Inside, you'll receive a personalized retirement tax analysis and a copy of Smart Money for the Backside of Life by Brian Mirau. Now, it is filled with strategies to help protect and grow your wealth. Again, 915-233-2904, or you can visit their website to claim your toolkit and schedule your visit. Brian, thank you for joining us and breaking down what the end of the shutdown really means to us.
Well, thanks again, Nicole. It's always great to be here.
Still ahead, a new facility serving veterans has opened in East El Paso. Find out what the CEO said about why they chose El Paso for its new location.
Smart Money is sponsored by Mirau Capital Management.